E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna and Jim, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Ginwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, I cannot believe we are already on August 2nd.
I hear you. Time flies and you're having fun, ladies and gentlemen.
Right?
It really does. And we've been so blessed this year, and I think that's one of the reasons why this year has just really flown by. It really has.
Absolutely.
And we're just very, very blessed to be here with our show and all. And I'll tell you what, folks, when it comes to the things that's come to us this year and the things that we've got presented to us, we are extremely blessed. And even in the middle of a recession, blessings never cease to come in all areas of your life. They really don't.
Right? It's how you look for them.
Mm-hmm.
Some are big and some are small.
Oh, yeah. And also the way you live your life, your attitude on life, the way you look at others, the way that you look for ways to be a blessing to others, that's the stepping stone through the right door. It really is.
That is the truth. And
Donna, on today's National Today, oh my goodness.
Well, guys, I should probably say it because Jim's just going to sit there and drool. It's what you do, bud.
That's right.
National Ice Cream Sandwich Day.
Mm.
Right? And the picture that's showing really does look good.
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
2 big giant chocolate chip cookies with ice cream, vanilla ice cream in the middle with more chocolate chip cookies. Hello.
Yeah. That's enough to make you drool like a hound dog at a picnic.
Right. But, there's all kinds of ice cream sandwiches. And it's not just here in the States. Many countries around the world have their own version of an ice cream sandwich. So in Vietnam, street vendors sell ice cream stuffed between 2 layers of bread. Mm-hmm. In Iran, pistachio or rose-flavored ice cream is sandwiched between 2 thin wafers. But, no matter how you stuff it, it's still an ice cream sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, Donna, also today is, as we shift a little gear here, today is also National Coloring Book Day. And that was one of the treats I remember as a kid, having a color book and crayons and stuff like that. And it was always a lot of fun.
It was.
Coloring books have gotten some serious grown-up attention lately.
Yeah.
It really has, because they talk about National Coloring Book Day being August the 2nd. It helps us relive our childhood, bring back good memories, and discover new health and wellness benefits now that coloring is no longer just for kids. In fact, adult coloring books seem to be the latest wellness and relaxation trend that helps people find happiness in their downtime. The researchers and art therapists have greatly appraised the benefits of coloring for over a decade, but only recently did publishers and childhood favorite brands like Crayola start producing adult coloring books. And ever wanted to paint the town red? You've heard that, or maybe purple, or even blue, or even a rainbow. Well, now's your chance. Break it out. And they talk about hosting a coloring book party. Well, this past weekend, we had Michaela's tribe up here. She refers her family as a tribe. Michaela and Reuben, between them, they have 7 girls. That's right. Número siete. Is that seven in Spanish? That's right. You took French. Let's see. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete. Yeah, that's right. So I had to count. And 7 girls, and 6 of them were up this weekend. One was with her dad and could not make it, and because they think they may have COVID in the house, so everybody's restricted. So that deal. But me and Ruben, we left because there was Evelyn, Lisa, Michaela, and 6 girls. So we decided we would just go out and do some guy things. But the girls all came together. Think about that, 4 generations. Great grandkids, grandkid, daughter and mother,
Yeah.
all having fun together. They made a lot of little things. They made butterflies that glow outside. And I mean, from just simple little arts and crafts things. It was a wonderful experience. They got to play with, the backyard. We live out in the country, so not to worry about watching the kids or anything. Turn on the water sprinkler, let them run through the water sprinkler. Just all kind of, down to earth things, the simple things in life. And that's what National Coloring Book Day is all about. Getting back to the simple things, letting the stress and everything just, fall away. Take an escape from the nonsense of the world, as I call it, especially with all the stress on us, with gas prices being up, food prices being up, shortages,
Right.
This will all pass, but don't let it consume you, right, Donna?
Absolutely not. When we get consumed, everything about it intensifies. And then our worry consumes us and then takes us into from a place of being able to, when we can see things a little more clearly,
Mm-hmm.
but when we worry about it too much, then it kind of gets a little bit muddied. We don't always see things quite as clear as we should.
Mm-hmm. And what's next on the list there of national todays you'd like to talk about or mention?
The next one is National Night Out, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Civilians, organizations, and the Metropolitan Police Department join hands to enhance the relationship between neighborhoods and communities.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
Like that.
That's a step in the
Okay?
right direction.
It is. It's a positive step for a good cause. Everybody's helping everybody out.
Mm-hmm.
So just we all need each other basically. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of history on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to 1970 when Matt Peskin was a regular volunteer at the Lower Marion Community Watch Program, which worked with the police department, excuse me, in the suburbs of Philadelphia. So he would often patrol local areas and soon introduced a newsletter on a community successes and goals volunteer work. So there was a little bit of a kickoff there. When he realized that the new content for the newsletter was very difficult to find, he began reaching out to surrounding communities for help and noticed they all had local neighborhood watches as a concept began in the US here in the late 1960s. So I still see that at least around Phoenix. I don't know about you, Jim. Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, we have it around here from time to time. Neighbors come together and just get to know the neighbors and, keep an eye out. Living out in the country, we're kind of spread out. We don't have to worry about it too much, but we still need a good neighborhood watch in the
Right.
event of a fire or in the event of something happening outside the home unusual.
Right.
I won't say it on the air, but there was a way that criminals, they had this one technique that they would use, and it was enable them to communicate and be able to hit a house when someone's not there and then be warned if the person is coming. And that's all I want to say. If you'd like to know more about that, just email us at inspiratione360tv.com. We will answer it, but only if you have a bona fide email address, and we will check that out first, to be honest with you, because we're not going to educate criminals. they can go to their own school. A lot of them go to the school of hard knocks where we don't issue certificates for completion of the course here at our TV show. Yeah, Donna, she's got a sign up at the studio door that says no criminals allowed. So,
Pretty
or
much.
hoodlums. Yeah, or
Right.
hoodlums.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm a rare form today. Also, too, I always thought this was a nice gesture. When you're up at the cash register and you see this little dish there and there's coins in there, if you need a penny or two, you take it. And sometimes, rather when you're paying for something and, you're a few cents short or something like that, the cashier says, oh, okay, let's just take it out of this here. And it's what's called, take a penny when you need it and give a penny when you don't need it, And that was a nice little thing. But what's really amazing, I thought that came out, in the 70s, but actually the take a penny or leave a penny dates all the way back to 757 AD. And
Wow.
the King Offa of Mercia, a kingdom of Anglo-Saxon England, introduced silver coins to the existing currency, which were widely believed to be the first English coins. And the first official U.S. coin was in 1787, reportedly designed by Benjamin Franklin. And visitors would leave a 1 cent coin at Franklin's graveside in Philadelphia for good luck. Copper coins came into existence in 1982. And they said say goodbye to the penny April the 1st, 2023, but according to news reports, the U.S. Mint announced that they will make their last batch of pennies on that date. But the point of it is, this coin came into existence, and this procedure came into existence, this habit. And you were able to, I don't know who came up with it, doesn't really say, but someone came up with the idea, and it just caught on like wildfire. And it's really a nice little thing. I always enjoyed that. How many times have you used a few pennies from there, Donna, and also dropped a few pennies in there? It was just something that you did.
Right.
It's just subconsciously,
And there's a few places that still have that.
Mhm.
But mostly what I see now, unfortunately, is that if there's a little extra change, the cashier usually keeps it on her register up front.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, it's important to do little things like that to help out people, because any type of a positive, friendly notion that you can do, it just vibrates good, positive energy. And you may not think that it would do that, but it does.
It really does.
It's just as important as a smile or a frown. If you frown at somebody, the frown's going to keep going.
Right.
If you smile at somebody, you're going to encourage others to smile and have a domino effect.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be talking today, our show is about how to survive inflation. Number one, Donna and I were talking about this before the show started. The very first thing is that we've seen people throughout life. And I'd like to start with this one young lady here. She's known as Biddy Mason, Biddy. Bridget went by the nickname Biddy Mason. She was born a slave, and this was well before the Civil War. And she came out to be one of America's first female real estate tycoons. Now, this is a black lady. Following her youth that was spent in bondage in Mississippi, she traveled to Utah in 1847 after her owner of the slave, she was a slave, converted to Mormonism. The family later moved to California, where Mason petitioned for and won her freedom in 1856. Now, the Civil War did not start until 1861, so this was prior to the Civil War.
Right.
And Mason spent the next decade in Los Angeles. She worked as a midwife. She did all kind of odd jobs, but she also became the city's first black landowner after she bought a small piece of property for $250. Now, remember, this is back in 1850, in the 1850s or early 1860s. She was a very astute businesswoman, And she later sold some of the land for profit and went on to build a commercial properties in some of LA's fastest growing business districts. And at the time, with her shrewd business dealings, she amassed a fortune of $300,000. Now, $300,000, I forgot to look that up. I'm going to look that up right now as I'm talking here. Now, $300,000 in let's just say 1865, okay?
Right.
And I'm just putting this in right now, folks. Forgive me for not doing that earlier. I forgot. In 1860 is worth what today? And today's money, let's see. Give me the calculator here. Okay, here we go. 300,000. $6.5 million. Pretty good for a slave lady, huh? Now, the message in that is that she had it a lot tougher than we do with inflation today. We grumble and complain about gas prices. Yes, we do. We grumble and complain about the prices at the supermarket. Yes, we do. We grumble and complain about shortages. Yes, we do. This young lady grew up as a slave. She had no income. She had no health benefits. She went out on her own with nothing as a midwife and working odd jobs, and became the first black landowner in LA when she bought a property for $250.
Good on her.
Yeah, bless her heart. So that should give us inspiration right there, because not only did she have business savvy, but she also had common sense.
Right.
That Benjamin Franklin talked about: a penny earned or penny saved is a penny earned. I'm doing a horrible job today on the mic, but it'll get better before the weekend. But Donna, we talk about controlling things in our life. The first thing we got to take a look at is how much money we're blowing away.
Right. That's a shocker.
Yeah, that's an eye-opener.
That's a shocker. So, the thing, I encourage my son to do this. And if you're looking for ways to save money, this is what I would encourage you to do. That whoever the adults are in the house who are, have the debit card and spend the money, I would suggest that you take a notebook, whoever it is, each of you, and write down every single thing you spend. And then at the end of the week, tally it and do it for an entire month. An entire month. Mm-hmm. And then you can look at it and you can see, okay, so this was my bills, and what is the rest of this? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, when I started doing that, and I seldom buy anything, like I seldom stop at the, Circle K or whatever and buy a soda. My husband does, but that's his thing. He's in construction, so that's his thing, and he buys usually one a day. But when we do that, Jim, it's shocking to find out that, if you buy a cup of coffees a week at the, whatever, Dutch Brothers or Starbucks or whoever it is, wherever you go, and you stop and you buy a couple of sodas, and maybe, you eat out a couple of times, 2-3 times a week, it's shocking how much money has just gone right through your fingers.
Well, not only that, it has a domino effect, because how many times when you're sitting in line at a coffee shop, you're going through the drive-thru, and in the morning you can say, hey, you're talking about my coffee, you hush. Okay, that's fine. But, can you not make your own coffee? I mean, I realize it's a treat, but when you are going through a recession and prices are going up and your income's not going up, you're going to have to make some adjustments.
Absolutely. And you're going to have to decide where your pain point is.
Exactly. And, You know, learn to make the coffee the way you like it. For example, it's a lot cheaper, but also too, when you're sitting in line, if there's 5 or 6 cars in line going around there to the window to pick up their coffee and whatever, think of all the gasoline that you're burning.
Right. Because we burn more gas when we idle than when we're driving.
Oh yeah, you get 0 miles per gallon on that one.
Right.
And but so I mean, you got to look at the overall picture of stuff. You got to be able to discipline
Dissect it.
yourself.
You
Mhm.
need to dissect it.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that you have to have a baseline. So, okay,
Mhm.
your mortgage payment, your rent, whatever. But you need to write those down too,
Mhm.
so that you know exactly, okay, this is the income that's coming in. And when you do that deduction, when it's crazy insane how much we can spend and not
Mhm.
know that we're really just blowing that money.
Oh, yeah. And some of these suggestions here is coming from Margaret Milliken. She's very well known in the finance industry in giving good, sound advice to people like you and me on how we can cut costs. And the very first thing that she said is what Donna said: start tracking your spending habits.
Mhm.
And that's one of the first things. This is the old-fashioned way to write it down as every expense that you make. It's really kind of tough and all that, but fortunately, in the 21st century, writing it down, we can pay for everything on a debit or credit card and check our statements. But the fact of it is, once we do that, that money's already gone. The
Right,
second thing that she recommends is get on a budget.
right.
That is critical. Barker talks a lot about that in this information she shared with us, didn't she, Donna?
She sure does. Budgets are huge, and also I'd like to say that if you use cash for anything, make sure you get a receipt so you can remember what you spent money on.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one. But
Mm-hmm.
she talks about, overcomplicating is the biggest mistake people make when they budget,
Oh,
right? So it becomes this big, oh my gosh. Well, so that just really means that you need to separate spending into needs, wants, and goals,
hmm.
rather than spelling out every specific item. So, what are our needs? Our needs, of course, are shelter and food and that type of thing. So all our household things for the house, those are our needs. What are the wants? So she's like, it's important to allocate money each month toward financial goals.
Mhm.
Paying off debt should be a major objective. And don't be tempted, to take money away from that to spend on other areas in your life. Obviously, if it's an emergency,
Mhm.
that's what it's there for. But
Sure.
cutting your expenses in order to continue to work toward being debt free is should always be a priority.
Mhm. It really is. And she lists 3 major steps there on how to make a budget. She's number one, determine your income.
Right.
And then she says, determine your fixed monthly bills. That's like your mortgage or your rent, uh, utilities, car payments, insurance. They may not be a fixed amount, but there's certainly a bill that's coming in that you have to pay
Right.
just to meet your basic needs, not your wants. And as Donna was talking about your needs and your wants, and I'm thinking, okay, someone's going to say, listen, my cup of coffee in the morning at this place where I stop, that's not a want, that's a need, brother. And I understand that. And also you got to determine the needs that you're going to need for food, your gas, medical expenses, things of
Right.
this nature. And what's left over is your what she calls discretionary spending. This is where the discipline comes in.
Right.
And that's very important because a lot of people lack discipline, don't they, Donna?
Yeah. I'm the saver in the family. I save the
Mhm.
money. But getting rid of debt, like
Mm.
she said, that's huge. Because especially right now, think about this, folks. We are all feeling the squeeze. Nobody is not feeling the squeeze on what's going on
Hmm.
in, the world, especially here in the United States. We're, at an all-time high for inflation.
Hmm.
Um, so you have to determine what is it that you need to get to make it better.
Hmm.
Because when inflation goes higher, like you always say, Jim, it's I'm trying to think. I love the way you put it. Um,
Inflation's not our, okay, let me see if, I think this is what you want me to say.
right,
Inflation's not prices going up. It's our buying power of our money
going
on the
down.
going down on the world market. That's
Right,
exactly what it is.
right. And so, unfortunately, things do go up. I mean, we
Mhm.
all know with the groceries. Every time I go out to buy eggs, I just want to cry and think I wish I had room for chickens. Oh, excuse
Oh,
me. I have
bless you.
so much dust in my lungs. We
Mm.
have so much dust going on around here. Pardon me.
Hmm.
But it's so important to understand that difference and see, okay, if my grocery bill has gone up, we'll just say 25%, my grocery bill went up, and I'm used to having in my want category, I get, say, a coffee 3, 4 times a week, and that is X amount of dollars. We
Hmm.
have to decide what we need to be able to give up to make that not a struggle for us. Or if
Hmm.
you can't give it up completely, cut it back, right? If you
Hmm.
go 5 days a week, cut it back to 2 days a week.
Hmm.
And at the end of the month, we're going to start seeing more money being able to go to offset the prices now, the higher prices that we're having to pay.
Hmm. Absolutely. And the third thing that she recommends is, we mentioned this briefly yesterday, but to reevaluate your subscriptions. Because she says most people have monthly subscriptions for cable TV or streaming services, internet, cell phones, publications. Some people belong to weight loss programs or gyms, you name it, the list goes on.
Right.
But once you've set one up, talking about your budget and all, you likely don't think about it much, but yet the money comes out of your account every single month.
Right.
And it's a budgeted item you've set in there, and you got to take a look at it and ask yourself a question. She says, ask yourself, how much do I use this?
Right.
This is the tough question to answer. Do I really need this?
Mm-hmm.
Can I live without it? Oh my goodness. Don't ask a teenager those questions. What kind of an answer would a teenager give you?
Right. Right. And and that's a big one, Jim, because I did this in my own life. I
Mhm.
cut out so many things. I cut out the pool service. I cut out cable. I cut out all kinds of things. I reevaluated my car insurance. A lot of times, guys, we're overinsured,
Mhm.
like
Yes.
way overinsured, right?
Yes. Yes.
And on our phone bill, is there anything that we can do? Or yes, maybe
Mhm.
switch providers. Maybe we
Mhm.
need to switch
Yeah.
providers.
Mhm.
But there's a lot
Yeah.
of little things that we can do that I'll tell
Mhm.
you at the end of the year add up to thousands and thousands of dollars.
Mhm. Yeah. Like my property out here in Brenham, I live on 8.5 acres. It's appraised at a certain value. And the insurance company wants to insure the home. And we don't have a big fancy home. It's a simple ranch, style type home, less than 2,000 square feet, but a little over two. Anyway, uh, they want to insure the home for the value of the property. Well, nobody's going to steal the property. And, if it burns down, it'll come back.
Right.
But my point being is that when you figure out, you've got to look at how much is a square foot cost per square footage for building or replacing a home in that area.
Right.
And then multiply that times the square footage of the home. And that should give you a real good indicator on how much insurance you can have, because I've had it cut back a couple of times because it was, it was just so much more than the house is worth. I mean, as far as the
Right.
physical structure, because I'm not selling the property, I'm insuring the home against a loss. That's the
Correct.
difference.
Correct.
But insurance companies, they just look at things. Property values this, okay, we'll insure it for 3/4 that amount or whatever. But I mean,
Right.
land out here is pretty expensive, and so they're not going to come out here and replace my pine trees or anything like that, or my oak trees or anything. At least I don't think they will.
Darn it.
But yeah, but I mean, that's some of the things you can look at. Same is true with you folks. I'm in a co-op and cannot, you know, search for other bids on my electricity, but in the cities and other places, you folks can. So be prudent, because that is just a service that you use. When you use it, you pay for it. That's it.
Right.
There's no love lost there, and it will keep them, and that keeps them competitive. But make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck when it comes to your utility bill, because electrical costs, they count for about 12%, she estimates, at the household budget. So 12%,
Right.
that's something to take a look at. That
Well,
is
I
12,
know.
$12 out of 100, ain't it?
Yeah. And I know that most electric companies
Mhm.
have a budgeting. So what it is,
Mhm.
like with us, we don't use anything to 220 between 3 and 6 p.m.
Mhm.
And so we have a lower rate for insurance electricity for a kilowatt hour.
Mhm.
Now, if we did use it between 3 and 6 p.m., it's going to over double that rate.
Mm.
So it doesn't sound like a lot. And I just got my utility bill in for my electric the other day. And I looked at it. And so that was billed out in July for August bill.
Mhm.
And I've already saved almost 2 months of an electric bill
Mhm. Yeah. And that's
across
money in the bank. Yeah.
across a year.
Mhm.
Right. And I also went on the budget plan. So because obviously Arizona gets a little toasty, and um, I would just, for me, I would rather pay my bill knowing it's XYZ
Mhm.
all the way across than have those. Everyone says, oh, well, my gosh, I got my electric bill in the winter and it was like $30. Well, that's great, but we only have about 3 or 4 months of winter.
Mhm.
So my whole thing is I don't want to have, a $550 electric bill and go,
Mm.
oh, that one's gonna hurt.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. The bill's so big, you get a hernia carrying it back from the mailbox.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And, like a lot of people don't understand 220 and 110. Electric stove requires 220 voltage.
Right.
And hot water heaters, some of them are they're mainly 220. And we cook on a gas stove. We have gas stove, and it's a lot cheaper overall. Um, I think it is anyway. I do know it's a lot healthier, because even the great chefs, they cook on gas. They don't cook on electric,
Right.
because they like the way the food will taste. Because electrical current is not natural; it's man-made. And when it comes to going the extra mile, she says making major utility changes, it can be expensive, but check your state government website. See, all of these utilities are regulated by the state that you live in. You need to check on that. Many have programs to help consumers switch to a more efficient heating system. For example, in Maine, they have a program that offers $1,000 rebate to homeowners with oil heat to switch to a heat pump, and even offers a low interest loan program to finance the cost. There's a lot of resources available to you that you've got to just sit down and look. Go to your state and just examine, utilities. How can I cut costs of my utilities? Just do some good homework there, and look
Well,
for cheaper ways for, to watch TV. There's TV alternatives out there,
oh
the
yeah.
streaming services, and you can get on like we are, Roku, because I'm not on cable TV.
Right. Yeah. I'm
And
not either.
yeah, and there's a lot of things that can do that, because you got to kind of find ways to cut costs like that.
Mm. Well, one of the resources you have is your local library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So local librarians, they know everything that's going on in town. Trust me on that. They know where you can go. They're plugged in and they can help direct you into maybe areas that somebody can, a different service, somebody who can help you. I
Mm-hmm.
know I pretty much stopped buying books and just buy them at the or rent them at the library.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure can. Yeah. And she talks a lot here about how to lower your housing expense. She says
That's
one of the business expenses that is likely housing, because people, for some reason, people whose income is below $50,000 a year, they spend on average a 36.6% of their income just for where they live. This is above the rule of thumb, where 30% is recommended
right.
by financial experts. And lenders, when considering mortgage applications, like to see someone spend about 28% of pre-tax of their income on housing. So reducing your housing expense can be a great way of doing that. A lot of people have already refinanced at the lower rates. I
Right.
don't know what rates are now, and there's a lot of things that you can do, you know, to be able to cut utilities and cut your costs where you live. Donna, this is a big one too. She doesn't mention it here, but this comes to mind. What about, just getting some caulk and making sure your windows and your doors, that heat cannot come in during the summer and cold can't come in during the summer. That saves a lot of energy too, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I would even go further.
Okay.
And I did this in Ohio. I lived in a really old house. I rented it. I lived in a
Mm-hmm.
really old house. And let me tell you, the wind blew. And those windows, I think, were the first windows ever invented. It was so cold. And
Mm-hmm.
in my bathroom off my bedroom, it was absolutely freezing in the wintertime. I mean, beyond cold. So, and because I rented, and I knew he wasn't going to go and replace all the windows, everywhere. Some of them were new, but back there they weren't in the bedrooms. So I cut out, it was a small window. I just cut out a small piece of cardboard and had it and fit it right into the window.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, it stopped the wind from going through uh, the sides of the window where they weren't fitting, where like you can't caulk around the window. It was
Mm-hmm.
the actual fitting of the windows sliding together.
Hmm.
And at least my bedroom wasn't freezing anymore. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's a few little tricks and trades that you can do out there that
Mm-hmm.
might help. But
Yeah.
absolutely that make sure they're closed tight, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you have kids.
Oh,
Jim, how
yeah.
many times have our little babies? They want to try, but they don't always, have that muscle yet, and they think they've closed it. So we
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure go behind them, make sure it's closed, lock it tight, and that
Mm-hmm.
way it keeps your air conditioning in or your heat in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, a lot of people too, when it comes to saving money, they don't look at things from a realistic point of view, because a lot of people got a lot of credit card debt. And one of the things that she recommends is consolidate your debt and get a lower interest rate.
Hmm.
She says one drastic way to cut expenses is to consolidate your debt. If you have credit cards, those monthly payments could be eating up a big portion of your take home pay. You can check out interest payments on cards, and it's likely between 16 to 30%.
Right.
Because credit cards, they get their money. And
Hmm.
debt consolidation means you take all of those debts and put them into one debt. And the end goal is to get a cheaper interest rate and a lower, much lower monthly payment.
Right.
And then, the way interest works, whether it's paying off a house or a credit card, whatever, uh, they charge you so much interest for 1 month. If you
Right.
make the minimum payment, you've paid what they required, but anything over that goes directly to the principal,
Correct.
not to the interest. In
And
other
so
words, if you
even and if
let
you're
me,
even in a spot And Jim, I know you and I are so alike on this.
Mhm.
And say usually, you want to get to where you can maybe make a payment and a half,
Mhm.
but you're not there yet.
Mhm.
Make that payment, take it, divide it, make it every week,
Mhm. Yeah.
and that'll help.
And even if you just make the minimum payment and you make 10 and you pay $10 more, you know,
Yep,
I mean, that $10 comes off the chunk, off the principal that you're owed.
yep.
And that's some little ways. And talk to a good tax attorney, or because people will give you good. There is in every city I know, in every got a community college, library, there are resources there to give you good tips on how you can lower your credit card. So just don't take what we're saying here as gospel. Check it out yourself and find ways. And one of the things, and I want to get through this as quick as I can because I know what Donna wants to bring up, and I'm going to get through that. But see, when you do this, and you make those extra payments, you're going to pay off debt more quickly. And one of the places that you do not want to go to borrow money is, and I'm going to let Donna say,
Well, I would. What do they call it? They have every name under the sun. I call them a loan shark.
a
you
slum
know,
shark.
yes, those payday loans,
Mm,
because the interest rate is sky high. I have never, thank God, I have never taken one out of there.
no, me neither.
But I can't imagine, if a credit card can run up as high as 24, 25%, I can only imagine what those paydays loans would be.
Hmm. Yeah. And again, there's laws in the state regulate them, but I mean, still,
They're high.
it's yeah. You don't even want to consider that.
And if you miss a
Yeah.
payment, you're in deep due.
Yeah. It's kind of like those people who finance their own cars. And
Right,
if you're if you're late making a payment on the car, they come and get the car.
right.
It's in the paperwork. They can do it. And I mean, it's just it's not a lot of young people do not realize how easy it is. And this is one thing that I have a problem with. The way credit card companies just throw credit at young kids.
Yeah.
Ah, man. And if they don't have good arithmetic skills, and they don't have know how to balance a checkbook, and they don't know how easy it is to get into debt. And wow, it's like a friend of mine went on a cruise, and he said, these people were all young guys were there at the bar and having a party and all that. Yeah, charge your room. And then
Oh, yeah.
they get checking out, and here comes this big long scroll of a bill, and they're looking at it and looking at it and looking at it. And does this thing ever end? Oh, it ends, but they did not like the end result of that bill
Right.
because it just really got out of hand for them. And but payday loans is something that you want to avoid. And if you're in a payday loan business, and if that's offensive to you, when I say I'm sorry, I'm not apologizing. I'm just simply telling the truth because this thing here is about how we can actually survive inflation. And you don't help someone if you're burying them deeper into debt. You really don't.
Right. Another one of the ways to save money, I love this, and we do it. We seldom go out, but it's eat at home,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
right? Eat at
Mm.
home. Now, I want to say this, and I want to preference this because I think, especially with our younger generation, they have an illusion that when they are going out and they go out with their friends and they go to happy hour, or they go out to eat and have lunch or breakfast or dinner or whatever. And this has happened in my own life with some of my children's friends. I said, okay, well, it seems like you're eating out an awful lot. Yeah, well, we're just grabbing a quick bite. I said, okay, but that's part of your grocery bill. And she said, it was hysterical. She said, no, we're just eating out. And I said, well, honey, you go to the grocery store to buy food to put in your mouth. So if you're going to a restaurant and you're putting food in your mouth, guess what? That goes into your grocery bill.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And, when it comes to, eating at home, Donna, my goodness gracious, that's a time when you can actually, create special meals for your
Oh, yeah.
family, you yourself, treat yourself. I mean, we're not talking about beanie weenie and crackers here. We're talking about, feed yourself healthy, make unique dishes and things of this. Try something new.
Well, and there's
Yeah.
lots of recipes out there, folks, and I still
Mm.
do it. I always have. There's certain things I make that I can make. I make extra and I freeze it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it saved my time frame in the
Mhm.
kitchen more than one time. But people
Oh
always
yeah.
say, well, gosh, Donna, why do you make 30 pounds of sauce at a time? Well, because I make up a whole bunch of lasagna. I make big ones and then I make mini sizes and I freeze the sauce. And we've got all kinds of dinners for a long time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's amazing because we got the sauce there. It makes it a lot easier, especially for this is a we spoke about this yesterday lightly about when the husband and wife both work, and usually it's the wife, she's worried about dinner and she's going to stop, pick up something on the way home.
Right.
But when you make extra food and you make it in batches like that, and if you have a freezer or have room in your freezer, make extra, and then you can plan out to have different dishes. Because when we say leftovers, we're not talking about having the same supper meal for supper 2 or 3 nights in a row. We're talking about being able to stagger it, and the frozen
Mhm.
food is good, and bring it out at different times. And that way it doesn't get old, and as far as the taste, plus the fact it saves money.
Right.
It really
Right.
does.
I do, I'll make two or three things on the weekend,
Hmm.
whatever we're having. And then I'll make usually two more different kinds of dishes. And
Mm.
then they all go in the refrigerator. And then guess what? We have our tonight's dish, and I've already got tomorrow's made up.
Hmm.
And then, and then we can rotate it. And that
Hmm.
has really saved me not only a lot of time, but, and I don't do this, but my husband's horrible at it. I am not an impulse buyer.
Mm.
So never, ever, ever go to the store. If you're an impulse buyer,
Mhm.
never go to the store if you're hungry. You'll be buying that sucker dry.
Seemed like I knew some people that did that in Tomball. We made a list. Okay.
We did.
This was our family. It was Gaia was there, your daughter, you were there, Emerson and his wife, Emerson Brantley, our host and director of marketing, was there. I was there. We went out. We're going to buy groceries. We were staying at Airbnb, going to be there for a few days. We went out and bought some groceries. We made a list, but we went and we were hungry. And, oh man, yeah, it looks good.
Well, and what was worse is we didn't all stick together. We scattered like roaches. And you know it, Jim. We were all over that dadgum store. At one point, I'm like trying to find something, and I look and I'm like, well, I can't find this. And I hear Emerson go, I got it over here, Donna. So, yeah, there was a little bit of extra food that, well, Jim's wife didn't have to cook for a day or two.
Yeah. And I tell you right now, we ate high on the hogger. It was a wonderful time. We had good camaraderie, good food.
Right.
And if you're not in a tight situation, it's okay. If you goof up like that, and it's okay when you do goof up, always, just okay, we goofed up, no big deal. We laughed about it. We knew we had more, but we bought enough. We could have stayed there probably another 3 days and ate.
Probably.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Probably could have.
Yeah, because I started laughing when I saw that next item that Marilyn brought up about 9 shop with the list. Well, we did 50% of that, but then, you know,
Yeah.
the cart went this way, Emerson went that way,
And went
Donna
one
went over
way.
that way, and I
I
went
went.
that way.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad, but we did have a good time.
And who had the list? I never saw the list.
I did.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I had the list.
Yeah,
You
but we
know,
were
one of the other things, and I found this is important, and I want to bring it up real quick because
sure.
we're talking about food and saving money. Most of us use coupons when we have them available,
Hmm.
right? They save money. It may not be a lot of money, but at the end of the year, that's several $100s, a car payment or something. But here's something else. Just because we have a coupon, whether it's a physical or a downloaded digital, if it isn't something that you're going to use, just because it's a good deal, doesn't mean you should buy it,
That's right.
because then it's a waste of money. And
Mhm.
there are certain things that I buy a few extra of, especially in canned goods.
Mhm.
If I'm going to the grocery, I'll buy a few extra of the things that
Mhm.
are regularly used items.
Mhm.
But I don't have kids at home anymore. So, when I had kids at home, I was shopping for a thrashing crew, because it wasn't just my kids, all their friends would come over,
Mhm.
you know, and they'd go to school. Oh, you know what mom made for dinner? And it was like locust invasion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
I
don't
just
have to buy that way anymore.
yeah. You know, folks, if you just save 25 cents a day on a coupon, which is really not that much, but 25 cents a day,
Hmm.
multiply that times 365 days in a year, that's
Right?
$91.25. These little numbers start adding up. That's the point we want to
Right.
make.
Little things aren't little, and big things aren't always big.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to try to cover a few more things on tomorrow's show. We'll go in there about how to put a freeze on your credit cards. That is critical. That takes a
Yes.
lot of discipline. Uh, there's been times in our life. In fact, I've got a credit card or two that's never been activated, and it's in the put away somewhere safe, kind of like, I guess, emergency fund if we really
Right.
needed it.
Exactly.
But I mean, you don't carry credit cards if you don't need them. I have one credit card and I have the debit card, and that's it. And that's just the way we live our life. And
Hmm.
it's a good way to live your life because none of us knows what tomorrow holds. And we don't know what the cost of gasoline is going to get up to before it starts turning around. But one thing's for sure, we will survive this inflation.
We will.
And Charlene and I talked about this yesterday. No matter what's going on, don't let it destroy your spirit.
Absolutely.
Oh, goodness. I mean, that's why I wanted to start this story about that young black lady who was born in slavery, who got her freedom in 1856 before the Civil War began in 1861, and how she worked hard and she didn't look for handouts. She didn't look for someone
Right.
else to solve her problems. And she became the first black landowner in Los Angeles. That's quite
Right.
that's especially coming from a farm as a slave in
Right.
Mississippi. Who would have ever thought that could happen? But that happened in America. That's how good this country really is. It's the land of
Absolutely.
opportunity. It's not the land for the politicians. And that's
Well,
just the bottom line.
and I'd like to maybe get into this if I could, just super quick.
Okay.
When we have children, and it's time for kids to go back to school.
Mhm.
And when we make our lunches at home for our kids, it it saves money. But
Mhm.
not only does it save money, but if you get your kids involved, it gives them that power. You
Mhm.
know, what are you going to want? Okay, these are the snacks. Do you want grapes this week? Do you want this? Do you want that? You can make cookies at home a lot cheaper than you can buy them.
Oh yeah.
My goodness. I mean, I think I saw at the bakery, Jim. It was like a dozen chocolate chip cookies for like $5
Hmm.
at the bakery.
Hmm.
And I'm like, good Lord, I can make a lot of cookies for $5. But by doing simple things like that, and our children not having, maybe a store bought a lunch, it's
Hmm.
healthier for them. It
Yes.
it empowers them. It helps. It has you have time together as a family, right?
Hmm.
And you're teaching them through a fun way.
Hmm. Absolutely. And, you know, it's also a very nice way too, because if you do it at home, you're going to be saving money. And you can ask your child if they have a special friend that'd like to have an extra cookie or two, and let them
Right.
pack it on and take it along with them, because that will teach them the importance of giving
Yep.
and the importance of seeing a smile on someone else's face and
Great
sharing
point.
things. Yeah, sharing things, because
Mhm.
we need to teach our kids at a very early age that giving is the greatest thing that they can do.
Right.
Because if you give, you will always receive.
Absolutely.
We're out
We're
of
gonna
time,
get.
Donna.
I know we're gonna get into more tomorrow's show.
Mhm.
So we're kind of excited to cover this because, we just felt like we really needed to talk
Mhm.
about this, and maybe that there's some ways that somebody out there needs a little, just a little help on, wow, I never thought of that.
Mhm.
And one
Yeah.
of the things I want to talk about before the week's out is currency for children.
Currency for children, huh?
Yes, it's fun. You'll love it.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our time is gone. Thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Donna, myself, and the crew here, what we call ourselves the tribe, like Michaela calls her family the tribe, with Emerson and Gaia and all the good people, Charlene that's with us, and goodness gracious. Well, our show is brought to you by the Hometown Good News Magazine. We're very excited about that. It's going to be a wonderful publication. It's going to be very, very interesting, very different. We're looking forward to that and being a part of that, and them being a part of us. And
Absolutely.
we want to remind you that it's always important to love yourself first, because you are worthy of being loved. Don't let anyone tell you you're not, because it's not true. And, love yourself first, then you can love others. Most importantly, don't live in fear. Don't let the things that's going on in this world worry you or concern you, because you can survive this. Look at all the people who came out of the Depression when people
Right.
didn't have two pennies to rub together, and they made it. And they
Ca-
pulled together and helped each other.
Came out strong.
Yeah, they really did. A lot of millionaires was made during those times too. And
Absolutely.
it's just the main thing of it is that look for ways to be prudent, look for ways to share what you've got with others, and to just be mindful of the fact that there are some things in your life that you can trim out if you have the courage to do it.
Absolutely.
We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.